Nope, it's not the end of fall season. Hey Joe, look! So listen up as we are about to wrap up the winter season. Kick up your heels and get ready to bust a move. Hey, is that Mike Burlingame or just a facsimile? Make sure you capture all the action because you won't want to miss this one. Sports Night is next.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sports Night. I'm Joe Young.
And I'm Howie Shapiro. And that's one of my favorites, that last
of all
clip
time.
Of all time, where he took a selfie with the ball player. It was just the best.
20-plus years, that is one of the greatest moments in CTN history. But we've got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. Going to wrap up the entire winter season and get ready for spring. Actually, today, the first day of spring, despite the snowfall. Yeah,
you wouldn't think it was spring outside, but definitely on the calendar it says it is. And we'll get there eventually, but this is Minnesota, so you never know.
But a little business to take care of before we get there. Talk about all of the winter sports action. Start with the boys hockey team. Definitely not the season the Cardinals were hoping for, but they'll take what positives they can and they'll move on. Cardinals knew from the start they needed to fill a lot of holes left from graduation, and they needed to do it while facing some of the best competition in the state. They were able to celebrate some small successes along the way, but ultimately this season was a rebuilding year, and hopefully it will help the Cardinals set a foundation for the future.
The season really couldn't have started any better for the Cardinals. They put up 7 goals in a dominant win over Rogers.
Just like that, Crosby came off the bench.
That gave the team hope that they'd be able to create a little more offense this year and give themselves a chance to compete every night. Unfortunately, it was their best offensive output of the season.
And a wraparound and a goal for Tyler George. And the Cardinals are running it up.
The Cardinals managed just 2.3 goals per game this year, which, believe it or not, was an improvement over last season. They were shut out 6 times and scored just 1 goal in 6 more. So that's nearly half of their games where they had 1 or none. Regardless of how well you play defense, it makes it awfully tough to win if you can't score. Meanwhile, the Cardinals' defensive statistics took a nosedive. Their goals against went from 3.9 in 16-17 to more than 5-point goals per game this year. And that's not due to their goaltending. Injuries and illness meant the Cardinals used 3 different keepers this year, and their combined saves percentage is just slightly below that of the previous year's starter, meaning the Cardinals just allowed that much more pressure on the net this year. The Cardinals managed just 5 wins this season and only 1 against a conference opponent. 2 of their wins came during a holiday trip to Wisconsin, and another was against a completely overmatched team from Southwest Christian in Richfield. Their only win in conference came in a 4-0 win over Osseo in early February.
And now we'll try and step through a shot, a goal for Duncan McKenna.
The bad news is the Cardinals will once again lose a talented group of seniors. 5 of their top 7 scorers are seniors, including Michael Crosby, who led the team in goals and points. The good news is they saw some younger players show dramatic improvements that gives optimism about the team's ability to move forward next year. Bottom line is the Cardinals have a lot of work to do. They need to have better puck possession and spend more time on the offensive end if they hope to be more competitive next season. They have the benefit of playing in the weaker half of the Northwest Suburban, but they weren't able to take advantage of that this year. Hopefully next year they'll be able to step up and become the contender they believe they can be.
There's a look at your 8 seniors: Andrew Argyros, Michael Crosby, Carson Miller, Tyler George, Nick Lockinen, Matt Hammond, Duncan McKenna, and John Hansen. And Howie, a solid group coming up. But the JV team struggled mightily throughout the year. They did get a little bit better toward the end of the year, but you know, as it is with every year for this program, they're going to be hard pressed to try and compete against the top teams. I think the big step is just trying to compete against the other teams in their half, their division, and especially in the middle of their division.
Well, yeah, they had trouble really on both sides of the ledger. They gave up a lot of goals this season, then they did not score the amount of goals that they need to. So those are some of the things, obviously, and those are big things that they have to work on over the offseason going into next year.
Well, hopefully, you know, we'll have a little bit better story to tell for them next season.
I hope so. Well, the girls' hockey season is a different story. The first year of the co-op with Champlain Park should be considered both a success and a great start. For the past 3 years, Coon Rapids has been forced to partner with other programs. After 2 solid seasons teamed up with Spring Lake Park, the Cardinals formed a new alliance this year with the Rebels. The Bluebirds took flight on their way to a division title, and they're hoping things will get better next year.
After a relatively slow start, the Bluebirds established themselves as a contender by winning 9 of 11 games from late November through the end of December. 6 of those wins were by shutout, and they allowed just 7 goals in those 11 games. The 2 losses were a 2-1 loss to division rival Spring Lake Park and a 2-0 loss to top 10 ranked Wayzata. The Bluebirds played incredibly well against other West Division teams all season, posting a 9-1 record in those games. 7 of their wins were shutouts, and they allowed just 4 goals in their 10 division games. Unfortunately, there's another side to the Northwest Suburban that brought a lot more power to the party.
Back at the creek and ready to get this cup action underway, and just like that, a goal for the Bluebirds.
5 of the 6 teams in the North Division spent at least some time in the top 10 rankings. Centennial finished as state runner-up, and Andover was state consolation champion. The Bluebirds were 1-5 against the North. They were shut out 3 times and averaged just a goal per game in those contests. This is where they hope to improve the most next year.
On the backhand, a short-handed goal!
The Bluebirds finished atop the West standings with a 10-6 conference record and a 13-9-3 record overall. The postseason ended quickly with a first-round loss to Rogers in the section tournament. The team will lose 6 players to graduation, including their top 2 defenders, who were arguably the best in the division and among the best in the entire conference. But what they return is encouraging. The Bluebirds will bring back 2 of their top 3 scorers, including freshman Delaney Johnson, who led the team in both goals and points. They will also return all 3 of their goaltenders. Junior Bailey Shuck got the majority of starts this year, but fellow junior Brooke Freeman and sophomore Elijah Johnson also saw time between the varsity pipes. All 3 posted winning records, and each had at least 1 shutout. This season will be looked at as a success, but definitely not as a peak. The Bluebirds believe there's much more they can accomplish. They want to compete better against the elite teams they face and hope to make a run deeper into the playoffs next year. There's a solid foundation now in place, and they look to take it to the next level next season.
There again are your seniors, the Coon Rapids girls on the right, Liz Zarati, Alyssa Brazier, and Jordan Keller. On the left, the 3 Champlin seniors, Micah Sutherland, Alyssa Sweet, and Leah Herwald. And Sweet and Sutherland, a lot of fun to watch from the blue line, could really create offense from there. Those are going to be probably, of the 6, the 2 toughest to replace.
Yeah, and those 3 Coon Rapids players, we've been talking about them for a number of years,
yes,
and they've brought a lot to this program as well. So always tough to replace some of those players, but you hope that youth in your program continues to build up, and you'll get stronger the next year.
Well, and a shout out too to the Champlin Park Coon Rapids 15B squad that won the state title this past weekend. Congratulations to them. That shows you there's a lot of talent,
which is good,
coming up behind them. So hopefully they'll just be able to reload and not miss a beat moving forward. Well, the rebuilding process continues for the Coon Rapids wrestling program. The Cardinals look to return to their former glory. The teams didn't make the progress they had hoped this year, but several of the team's leaders had solid seasons, with 2 of them making their way to the state tournament. This is a program with a long history of success and a reputation for rebuilding, so there's reason to be confident they'll be back to battle again next fall.
The Cardinals entered the season hoping to continue the improvements they'd shown a year before. They returned much of their top talent from that team and felt they had the right combination of strength and experience to make them competitive in both their conference and section.
You got him. There it is.
Unfortunately, things didn't quite go as planned. Cardinals dealt with some unexpected adversity along the way that kept them from having the season they had believed they were capable of. While their overall record was very similar to the year before, the Cardinals had one of their worst finishes against Northwest Suburban opponents in the last 20 years. Losses to Maple Grove and Blaine kept them from mounting a serious challenge to defending champion Anoka. The Tornadoes on their way to a state 3rd-place finish. They did have some successes worth celebration. Cardinals won their own Board Highland Duels tournament with a victory over top-ranked single-A team Zumbrota Mazeppa. They also finished as runner-up at the Blaine Duels. The Cardinals fared even better in individual tournaments. They were 7th at the Big Bear Invite with freshman Alex Kowalchuk grabbing the championship. Junior Moise Medimba was runner-up at the Rumble on the Red, helping the Cards to a 19th place finish, and the team finished 3rd at the Eastview Lightning Invite, with Nick Berg taking 1st, Isaiah Thompson finishing 2nd, and 5 others taking 3rd place. The Cardinals have spent most of the past 2 decades ranked among the state's top 10, but they were on the outside looking in this year. 4 other teams in Section 7 were ranked top 12, and Coon Rapids made a quick exit in the team section tournament, losing in the first round to St. Francis.
Medimba able to dive down, grab that ankle again.
The Cardinals had 11 guys earn places at the individual section tournament, with John Spobany and Moise Medimba qualifying for state as runners-up. Alex Kowalchuk and Dalen Jones just missed by finishing 3rd. Unfortunately, both state entrants were one and done at the big dance, but both will be back as seniors next season, and they won't be alone. 10 of the 11 Cardinals who placed at sections will be back again next year, meaning they should have a head start on improving on their finish in the conference and section, and returning to the state's rankings where they believe they belong.
There it is, just 4 seniors, Aaron Caswell, Amara Kane, James Super, and Lucas Partlow. So the losses, minimal. They bring back a lot of their talent, and we know that this is a program that will not be satisfied until they're a contender again.
No, and I know that this coaching staff knows this was an off year for them, and this is a good program, and they will continue to develop. And I think this season will be next season will be a lot different than this season.
Well, and hopefully, you know, they had some strengths, pockets of strength.
They did.
Hopefully, they're able to get some more strength at the upper weights next year, where they found themselves a little behind the 8 ball against some of the top teams.
Well, we shall see. Well, this was a great season for the Cardinals gymnastics team, and it's hopefully just the start of something very special. This team has been building in strength over the last couple of years, and this year they took a big step by achieving a goal they've been striving toward. They'll lose a couple of strong leaders, but still have a lot of young talent to keep the progress going.
There was a lot of excitement surrounding the gymnastics team this season. They returned a lot of talent and experience, and they knew that this lineup had a good chance of doing something the Cardinal team hasn't achieved in years. Diane Habel returned to the head coaching position and took over a team full of potential. The Cardinals had come within an eyelash of their goal of 130 last season, and they returned the entire team. They were committed and driven to get that mark this year and become a team that's more competitive in their conference. Their hard work would not go unrewarded. Each girl improved throughout the year and the team scores jumped, leaving the Cardinals believing that this could be just the start. After posting a 121 in their first meet, the Cardinals scored 125 through most of December. The most encouraging part was that they're getting contributions from several different girls. If one girl had a rough night, someone else would step up and pick up the slack and keep their scores consistent. Once all the individuals found more consistency, the team scores jumped again. In their first meet of the new year, the Cardinals scored a 128 and took a 3rd place at the MGGOA Classic. Less than a week later, the Cardinals finally did it. They scored a 130.075 in a win over Osceola. It was a great accomplishment worth celebrating, but the Cardinals still had things they wanted to achieve. They scored 129 in their next few meets. After a disappointing 125 against Irondale, the Cards closed out their dual meet schedule by scoring a 132.35 in a loss to Centennial. They scored 130 at sections. While they didn't have anyone qualify for state, what they achieved as a team was fantastic, and they were only able to do it with the work and effort of members from every level. The Cardinals' 2 senior leaders, Hannah Gross and Kamika Hurdle, were a big part of the success and will be sorely missed next season. But among the other top scorers for the team this year were junior Megan Hetwer, sophomores Aaliyah Wu and Rachel Dieters, and freshman Cassie Rushmeyer. That should mean the team is able to reload for years to come and could be setting their goals even higher in the future.
There it is, just Kamika Hurdle and Hannah Gross. So a lot of their talent coming back
Yes.
next year, which is very exciting. Definitely going to miss those two. Have been great leaders
Yes,
over
they
the past
have.
years. Also going to greatly miss Hannah Gross's mom, who has been the one, Tara, who has kept me in the know.
Maybe she still
over
will.
the last couple of seasons with all of her emails. So someone in the parent group of the gymnastics team, time to step up and keep it coming, because she did a great job over the last couple of years, keeping me posted with scores
really has.
and letting me know what was going on inside the program. But very excited for this team to get to that 130. And I think with what they have coming back, you know, they have the potential to be starting in those high 120s into the low 130s right away at the beginning, and maybe build up into the mid and high 130s by the end of next season.
Well, now they've achieved that goal, so now they have to set a new one for next season.
Absolutely. Well, the story of the boys swimming and diving team may just be the most exciting story at Coon Rapids High School. This program is growing rapidly, both in numbers and in respect. Cardinals had a huge surge in numbers this season, and it helped them post their best finish in years.
It doesn't take much to get Cardinals swimming and diving coach Doug Donaldson excited, but his enthusiasm to start this season was well justified. There was a whole wealth of new athletes joining the team and looking to take the Cardinals to new heights. The Cardinals have been growing over the previous couple of years, but this year the numbers took a huge jump. They went from about 23 guys last season to 35 this year, a 50% growth. It gave the team more talent and depth to help them compete. There's still work to be done to become a contender in the Northwest Suburban, but the added numbers gave the Cardinals strength enough to climb out of the conference cellar. They tallied a 3-6 record during the regular season, then beat Irondale to finish 9th in the conference. It's the best finish for a Cardinals team since Donaldson took over the program 3 years ago, and could go back as far as 2010. The most exciting part of the team's success is the amount of points the Cardinals received from the lower grade levels. They had a handful of seniors on the squad who were scoring well in every meet, but it was the younger guys that were carrying the majority of the load. In fact, the team's brightest star is still a middle schooler. 8th grader Tyler Schultz won the 200 and 500 freestyle events at sections and became the only middle schooler competing in an individual event at the state championships. Schultz will be around for years to come, and he'll have plenty of company. Freshman Matt Struss just barely missed state in both of his individual events, and fellow freshman and first-year diver Jack Simmer made people take notice of his potential to be one of the best in the conference and section for the next few seasons. Junior Andrew Trung was consistently a top performer for the Cardinals and will also be back to help lead the way next fall. There are a number of others just behind this group that will continue to get stronger and faster. Finishing the way they did this year is just the start. If it leads to continued growth within the program, it could mean the goals and potential just continues to grow along with it.
There are your seniors, 7 of them: Alex Schmidt, Brandon Wilson, Jason Zhu, Marcus Carrasco, Matthew Samolsillup, Miles Pluger, and Patrick Schultz. And how it's so much fun working with Coach Donaldson.
Oh, great! It's great.
But yeah, the team he has to work with him is really just feeding into that enthusiasm, and it's fantastic.
I'm excited to see what the numbers are going to be next year. Well, it was a good winter for the Nordic ski team, both the weather with the progress made by boys and girls teams. We finally had a good old-fashioned Minnesota winter with plenty of snow and moderate temperatures, which let these young Cardinals teams take flight. Both teams were middle of the pack most of the year, but they will return almost everyone next season.
The start of the season was delayed due to warm weather, but once they got on snow, these Cardinals really took off. At their first event, the Winona Sprints, the Cardinals' top relays took first place for both boys and girls. Once the conference races started, the Cardinals competed well, placing towards the top in every Northwest Suburban event. The boys finished 3rd and 4th in 2 skate races and 3rd in Classic 5K. Meanwhile, the girls won one of the skate races and finished 2nd in the other. They were 2nd in the Classic as well. Both teams finished 3rd in the Northwestern Suburban Pursuit, but fell off a bit for the conference championships the following week. The boys finished 5th in conference and 7th at section championships. The girls were 8th in conference, but stepped up to a 4th place finish at the section meet. 2 of the boys finished top 20 at sections. Freshman Ricky Petroff was 18th, and senior Mitch Zandarowski finished 20th. The girls had 3 in the top 20. 8th grader Lila Gilliard was 19th, junior Olivia Ellenbacher was 13th, and sophomore Abby Ellenbacher qualified for her 2nd state tournament by taking 5th place at sections. She would go on to a 51st place finish overall at state meet. The Cardinals' numbers were encouraging, but the most impressive part is the youth. The boys had just 2 seniors on their roster, and the girls didn't have any. The top finisher at sections for the boys, 1 senior, 1 junior, 2 sophomores, and a freshman. And for the girls, 2 juniors, 2 sophomores, and an 8th grader. It leaves a lot of optimism for the future of both of these programs. They will have a great opportunity next year to make a push for the top of the conference and the section. Both will be returning athletes who have made it to state and will be working to get back. And both will have the depth it takes to be serious contenders.
There you go, the only seniors, Mitch Zandarowski and Paul Breitbach. Breitbach has been a leader for cross country and Nordic skiing
he'll be
for
missed.
a number of years. He will definitely be missed. Zandarowski was one of their top skiers all season long, but the youth is encouraging.
Which is a great thing, obviously.
And we look forward to seeing what they're able to accomplish next year. Alpine skiing, of course, they're too far away. We don't get to see them. I do want to thank Coach Lauren Erie for keeping me posted on their scores all year so that we can at least include them on Sportsnight as they deserve to be. Alpine skiing loses just 1 boy and 1 girl, Grant Smith and Hattie Bayo, the only seniors on the club. The best part of the season for the Alpine team is that they got the numbers out that they can compete as a full team on both boys and girls sides. Emma Bolin was all conference. Reed Smith would have been all conference if they included all 5 varsity races, but it's the best 4. So he just dropped out of it and had to settle for honorable mention. Reed Smith, Jake Sides, and Jacob Hawkinson, all honorable mention for the boys. Emily Verbeek was also honorable mention for the girls. Well, boys basketball team had another outstanding season, proving that last year's turnaround was not a one-time thing. When the Cardinals went from 3-23 team to post a 12-14 record last season, they did it with a lineup that was almost all seniors. Not many people gave them a chance to do it again, but they did. Now the question is, can they keep it going, and just how far can they go?
The Cardinals really only returned 1 player that played significant minutes the year before, so they didn't have much varsity experience. But while others doubted their abilities, the Cardinals were just about believing in themselves.
3-pointer for Sayers is good.
They lost a 2-point heartbreaker to section rival Forest Lake in the season opener, and it took a while for the Cardinals to take flight. They won just 1 of their first 5 games, but then they won 4 in a row to get back to 500. The Cardinals traded wins with losses through the majority of their schedule, keeping themselves in the middle of the conference standings. They didn't have the firepower to compete with the elite teams in the Northwest Suburban that ranked in the state's top 10, but against the others, they would more than hold their own. The Cardinals' strength again came from their defense and their speed, and they couldn't have been so successful if it weren't for their incredible balance. Everyone in the lineup was capable of contributing on a given night, and their scoring was even more well distributed than it had been the year before. This year's squad was led by Marcel Winston at 14.2 points per game and Marshall Holland at 12.4. Behind them were 5 guys all averaging between 5 and 8 points per game. When it was totaled up, this year's Cardinals actually outscored the team from a year before, only by a couple of points a night, but still, they proved to be an improved offensive club thanks to their depth. The Cardinals finished the regular season with an 11-15 record, a game behind where they had finished the year before. They were the 5th seed in the section tournament. After trailing by 14 at halftime in the quarterfinal, they made an amazing comeback and upset the defending section champion Huskies in a dramatic finish.
Inbounded to Knopfler. He gets inside, underneath, and
the season ended with a loss to eventual section champion Forest Lake in the semifinals. but the Cardinals had already accomplished the improbable. They defied the odds of being able to repeat their success, and this time they will be returning more of the keys to that success. 3 of the Cardinals' top 5 scorers will be back next season, and as they proved with the run they made this year, they have more guys coming up that are ready to carry the mantle forward. Soon, it won't be a surprise that they're a competitor. It will start to become an expectation, and then it will mean they need even more wins to be considered a success.
There it is, good group. Josh Troll, Marcel Winston, Zach Hussein, Sean Jelly Dog Smith,
The dog!
and Logan Severson. And you will definitely miss those guys on the court. But Winston and Hussein, 2 of my favorite characters off the court that we've had the chance to interact with in a long time.
These are a group of young men that definitely will be missed. And if you have one word to describe this team, it's grit.
Yeah, and I look forward to it, though. They've got a lot of pieces coming back. It should be fun to watch again next season.
They will. Last but certainly not least, the girls' basketball team had their most successful season this decade, and they're hoping the upward trend continues. In the past 3 seasons, the Cardinals have surged back to relevance in the Northwest Suburban. This year, they finished 500 and won a section game for the 2nd time in 3 years. It was a great year, and they're hoping it's just still a start.
The season started like many do, with a lot of optimism. The Cardinals posted their best record in 5 years last season, and they returned most of that team. They opened with a win over section rival Cambridge Isanti, but then lost 2 to other Section 7 teams, and that kind of set the scene for the season. The Cardinals traded wins with losses all year. They only lost 3 in a row once in mid-December, and they only won 3 in a row once in late January.
Left side, Hanneman jump shot is good.
Yeah, that's nice. Lady Hanneman.
They were also never more than 2 games over or 2 games below 500. Each time they lost, they found a way to bounce back. Unfortunately, every time they won, it seemed someone would hand them a loss to bring them back to earth. They finished the season at 13-13, but they were only 4-8 against North Division opponents. To be fair, the top 2 teams, Centennial and Champlain Park, were ranked in the top 10 through most of the season. They went 4-3 in crossover games with the West Division. The Cardinals earned the 4th seed in the section tournament and got to start the postseason on their home court for the first time in a very long time. And they proved they deserved it by beating Andover for the 3rd time this year.
Kicks it out. Artis for 3, she nailed it.
The Cardinals season ended with a loss to eventual section champion, Forest Lake, in the semifinals. The team's strength started with its defense and its transition play, but they also had an inside presence that was hard to match. Ellie Carver at times could take over a game, and Lainey Hanneman added more size in mid-range shooting. And don't forget Caitlin Ackerman, who was constantly battling on the offensive glass. It all added up to a team that was fun to watch and brought this program back to a level it hasn't seen in years. But they'll be hard-pressed to follow it up. They will lose 5 seniors, including most of their starting lineup. But they do return a handful that played a significant role in this year's success. And as the boys' squad proved, there's more than enough to keep the momentum moving forward.
There are your seniors: Kennedy Kerr, Caitlin Ackerman, Courtney Ackerman, Brooklyn Dixon, and Ellie Carver. And Ellie, I think, has been outstanding, a 4-year starter for the program. Huge fan of both Ackerman twins, but especially Caitlin. She is deservedly the Athena Award winner, and it's all about her hustle. Love the way she plays. Brooklyn Dixon came a long way this year as well. Kennedy Kerr didn't get as many minutes maybe as we would have expected, but a hot shooter that will also be missed.
Yeah, without a question about it. That's something that I think this squad of all may be the toughest to replace some of these athletes that they're losing for next season.
Well, we can only hope. You know, it's a long off season for all of these teams to try and get ready, but many of them have spring seasons to look forward to, as do we. We start the spring season on the road in Stillwater as the Cardinals take on the Ponies to kick off the baseball season. Then at Maple Grove on Tuesday the 11th, softball team first look is on Thursday the 12th when the Cardinals host the Panthers from Spring Lake Park. That's going to do it for this edition and this winter season of Sports Night. I want to thank everybody out there for joining us to continue to support everything we do here at CTN. For the entire crew, including Howard Shapiro, I'm Joe Young, saying good night.